Have you ever wanted to be the first to know if aliens really exist? Well, with Nebula, you can be! Nebula is the streaming service that's home to It's Probably Not Aliens, as well as our YouTube channels. And the best part? All of our content goes up early on Nebula. So when we break first contact with ET, you'll be the first to find out. That's right, you'll be able to listen to the next episode of this show before anyone else. Plus, we post bonus content that you won't find any other place. And the best part? By signing up for Nebula at nebula.tv/probablynotaliens, you're directly supporting the show and both of us. So don't wait any longer. Join Nebula today and be the first to know if this time it really is aliens. What if I were to tell you that there are alien human hybrids out there which have the name hubrids that are sorry, I had to drop that one early because it's going to be said a bunch and is a real term.
That's a good word. Hubrids. It is like, with all of their technology, they couldn't come up with a better portmanteau than that.
The marketing department on the UFO was not not strong. But as you'll see, these are advanced interstellar beings that also have some serious limitations when it comes to the basics of suburban life.
It's a couple of coneheads. You're describing the coneheads.
It's fairly conehead adjacent, yeah.
It's conehead coded, yeah, okay.
So today's episode is about a guy named David Jacobs. Also, by the way, internet, hi. This is a podcast called It's Probably Not Aliens, a podcast where we go into ancient astronaut theory, ancient aliens, pseudo-history, pseudo-archaeology, and pseudoscience. And basically, the tagline I'm going with now is like everything in the conspiracy theory culture that fits in the science fiction genre. I'm Tristan Johnson. I am the regular co-host. If you've been listening to the show in this season, you'll know that Scott is on paternity leave and has having a very fun time with his new bebe. And so we've had a lot of friends of the show, guests, or people that I just wanted some excuse to talk to for a little bit to come on and do the show. And so I think that you might be the record keeper for most appearances on It's Probably Not Aliens.
I had damn well better be. Hi, everybody. I'm your Scott today. It's me, Mildred Thought Slime.
Yeah. I am so excited to have you on for this because as I talked about kind of before we started recording, I'm like, this has a classic Thought Slime arc in which that it is funny, weird, and then gets incredibly dark, which I think I feel like we need your specific set of skills to tackle.
That does sound right up my alley.
Yeah. So I'm very happy with this. So David Jacobs is a retired history professor from Temple University who made the claim that there are alien human hybrids known as hubrids, which he sticks to, that are currently walking Amogus.
Okay.
Amogus, sorry. They're currently walking Amogus, integrating into society and trying to take us over. However, these advanced interstellar beings are baffled by some very interesting things. In his book, Walking Amogus, Jacobs claims that abductees are being forced to train hubrids in these personal living skills. So this is the little bits that I've picked up. So one reported having to teach them how to use a toaster.
Okay, yeah. So just before we continue, I need some understanding of the logistics here.
Mm-hmm.
These alien human hybrids, half human, half alien, I assume, born thus in space, or were they born on Earth?
Stop asking such completely logical questions. I wish I knew, because I feel like the logic might be that they're aliens that then just got a bunch of human DNA, but that's not how hybrid works.
Right. So it's more like a clone situation than it is like an alien giving birth to a human hybrid.
Or like a Tuvix situation.
Like there's a big vat where they're producing them.
I wish I knew the details. The lore is not deep on the science part, but
okay.
They get taught how to do things like use a toaster or order coffee at Starbucks without looking suspicious. This just sounds like having social anxiety.
You're their emotional support human.
Yeah. Like teaching a hubrid how to pick out a towel at a department store from one report. And one involves teaching them when to clap during a performance so that they don't look weird. This literally just feels like social anxiety.
It's also notably, you would think they would be asking, like, how to get into our nuclear facilities or how to
Mhm.
infiltrate the halls of power. But instead, it's like, well, how do I buy towels? What if I get wet and I can't dry off? How do I buy towels? Just sounds like they want to live normal lives.
They just want to, they're just trying to like have like their kind of rumspringa, like they get off the UFO for like a season and find themselves, you know?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. On our planet, we don't have coffee, so I just don't know how to order it.
It's true. And like, I just always have to put on the bit that this is a civilization that has figured out how to do interstellar travel, something that we currently think might be physically impossible,
Hmm.
and also genetic engineering to the point where they can hybridize humans with an entire different, not even like a different kingdom of life, like an entire different branch of living material that would be, we would have more in common with like pine trees than we would have with these aliens.
Do they do the old? A lot of UFO people, in my experience, tend to, when you confront them with things like that, say, "Oh, well, they're actually also demons." Is there any of that? Is he like a
The
religious kook as well?
He is not. Sometimes I know that in UFO lore, they sometimes go with like that the aliens are actually humans from the future, and that's how they can do this stuff.
Mm,
But it does seem like no matter what kind, they are extraordinarily interested in sex
yes.
and reproducing with humans. And we've established an episode a couple of years ago with Trace Dominguez that one of the things might be because you know how we like hybridized with like Neanderthals and like Homo erectus and like all this stuff. I don't know about Homo erectus, don't at me.
Hmm. Hmm.
But the bit we talked about was the possibility that what's called sexy ape theory, which is just there's something about humans that make us uniquely sexually like sexy to other species.
That's also a thing in Dungeons and Dragons, isn't it?
Not
That like humans are the only species that like every other species can mate with.
They've fixed that recently, but I think in my own personal setting that humans have kind of elastic DNA.
It's interesting. That's one thing we do wish to see in the universe is that we are uniquely fuckable.
Mhm. I mean, Captain Kirk alone
Yes.
tries to test out the thesis, but yeah, like basically, like this is where we're going. Like this is the kind of theory that got dropped into my plate on this season. Where this is kind of the season finale, actually, but like on this episode of Ancient Aliens, where the overall theory is that aliens have been messing with us, with our DNA, with our population levels for tens of thousands of years, and that the ultimate goal is to someday just replace us with these hubrids and devour, like, you know, basically take us over, make us into some kind of slave species for reasons.
It's also like, why go to such lengths? Why not just show up? Like, if you can cross the interstellar void, you telling me you can't like come up with a nuke and then hover around in orbit and say, "Hey, you belong to us now"? Like,
You'd think, you'd think. There's a lot of question marks that stick out.
hmm,
But the first thing that comes to my mind when people think about this, like there is these people, and this is as I did research for this episode, there's like a recurring theme in humanity of like this idea that there is an enemy within that needs to be addressed, needs to be taken care of in some way. And the first thing that came to mind for me was the historical horror novel, or the not novel, but like the historical horror story or slash like folklore of changelings.
mhm.
Now, do you know this story at all?
Yeah, like a fey creature would steal your child and replace them with one of theirs so that you would raise it.
Hmm.
And it was kind of used as an explanation for why children experiencing developmental disorders would suddenly and quickly change
Yeah.
personality.
Yeah, sometimes it would also be used like if this is very unfortunate, but like in the past, sometimes when there was infanticide was still a thing when like the weather, like you know, famine and stuff like that, and so basically like as a way for a pre-scientific civilization to process emotionally things that the community didn't understand. Again, as you
Hmm.
said, neurodivergence, disability, illness, or famine. And the modern version, as in many things, we see other examples of this. You might know about the 1950s film Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Yes, yeah, yes, I'm quite familiar.
that your neighbor might be a secret pod person.
Or its 1999 equivalent, The Faculty.
I I thought that movie. I had like completely buried that movie in my head. For
Jon
like
Stewart's in it, and they defeat the aliens by doing cocaine.
I think I remember that. Yeah. It came to mind because somebody was talking about what's it called? They're talking about "Pretty Fly for a White Guy," and I was like, and I'm like, they had a song. I'm trying to remember what the band's name is right now, but
It's Offspring.
Offspring, right? But I was like, yeah, Offspring had a song in that one, and I was like, that is like my quintessential Offspring song in my head because
Yeah,
of the
I think
faculty.
I feel like it's everybody's quintessential. They have a few bangers, but I feel like that's the big one. Pretty Fly for a White Guy.
No, no, mine is like the song they made for the faculty, which
Oh,
is I think one of their lesser notes. I don't know, but it's because I was exposed to 1999 films as a this was probably too young for a person who's supposed to be watching that, as it was many things.
I
Um,
think we were the age it was marketed towards. I think we're fine.
I mean, I have like one of my defining childhood traits was being exposed to media that I was definitely too young for at too young an age because I had a cousin who was like 16 years older than me who lived at my house. So I like watched Akira when I was 9 and like Alien when I was like 10 years old or something like that.
As it should be.
Yeah. That was the purpose of Gen X, to completely fuck us up with weird obscure horror from the 80s
Oh,
or the
believe me,
70s.
if you or Scott lived close enough that I could babysit, I would be doing that to your children,
Perfect.
making sure they saw some real fucked up movies. Audition.
I don't even know that one.
Oh, it's perfectly child friendly.
Okay, I'll take your word for it.
Mhm.
So Jacobs has written several books. One's called The Threat. One is called Walking Amogus. Amogus. Uh, Plus, he's done extensive interviews on shows like Dark Journalist, which has to be one of the most self-serious names for a show I've ever heard in my life.
You're just jealous you didn't think of it. This show should have been called Dark Journalism.
It's basically a conspiracy theory podcast that he goes on a lot.
No, really?
Yeah. In these books, Jacobs argues that the abduction phenomenon, like, these stories of people claim that they're being abduction, they're not curious about us. They're not studying us. It's a covert hostile colonization, which he explicitly calls planetary acquisition.
Mhm.
And that the aliens are genetically modifying humanity to create a sort of hive mind society. Because I'll also mention in this, because we talked about this last week, but you weren't here last week, is that there's a hierarchy where like the gray aliens, your X-Files classics,
Right, right.
are actually like mindless drones. And the real ones in charge are like these mantises that wear purple robes, 7 foot tall mantis aliens that wear purple robes. And those are the actual ones in charge.
And if they take off the robes, all of their authority goes away.
Yeah. It's all their rank is held in that. I mean, they look really embarrassing underneath is the problem.
Yeah. Big diapers.
Mhm. In fact, they have a whole hierarchy. There's an established lore here. So you've got, up on top, you've got the insectoids or mantids, whichever term you prefer. Then below, you've got the grays,
Mhm.
who are like worker bees and drones. And then you've got hybrids, which are sort of early stage mixtures. They look weird and stay on the ship. So they're kind of like the prototypes of this, I guess. Or that maybe it's some kind of gene stealer type plan. I don't know.
Okay. Are there any like aliens that are beneath us on the hierarchy? Where they're like, we want to subjugate and enslave humanity, but we do like them better than the fartnoids or whatever.
They're just like tiny little balls that just walk around and make really annoying sounds.
I don't know why we assimilated this culture. This was a mistake.
It's like the alien equivalent of like do you remember in Star Wars how like you'd be on the Imperial ship and there's just randomly some like shoebox with wheels going around on the ground?
Yeah.
It's like begging to be kicked.
I always assumed they were the like Roombas.
That makes sense, yeah. But it's just like that just seemed to be begging for someone to just accidentally kick one and have it fly across the room or something.
Yeah, the OSHA standards on Imperial ships is famously quite bad. Just no railings.
Now below the hybrids, there is the final product, and that is the hubrids.
Okay.
The human hybrid chimeras that are physically indistinguishable from humans, but neurologically they're aliens. They're hive-minded, they're emotionless, and they're telepathic.
Okay. Would that not imply then that there are hybrids between like the grays and the mantises and all the other as well?
You'd think. I think that the races have like as many people who hold these kinds of beliefs, as we'll get to kind of the root cause, there's a belief that races have strict hierarchies above and below each other.
Yeah. It does seem like that is somewhat complicated by this whole hybridization idea.
Yeah, which is even weirder because we talked about in an ancient aliens, like ancient aliens in this same episode, talked earlier about like how there was like maybe, and this might in the lore be like ancient attempts to do this, where like they mixed with humans and they didn't like how it turned out, so they like destroyed that civilization, and that's how like we end up like ruins at Non Madal in like the Pacific Ocean, which or in Micronesia, which we basically broke down was like them laundering HP Lovecraft's weird fear of like the breeding with fish people stuff. Which HP Lovecraft was a common source of plagiarism for Eric von Daniken's work. So
I do feel like it would be much neater to assume that rather than trying to like use this process to somehow enslave us all, their goal is some sort of space eugenics where they take the best part of every intelligent culture and kind of create a super being that has all of the strengths and other weaknesses.
yeah, like a Voltron of
Kind of alien daywalker type of situation.
yeah. The logic of it doesn't seem to really pan out. It's just that this is what was given to me. So yeah, so according to Jacobs, around 2003, they started taking these hubrids and integrating them into our world. And that hubrids are apparently in our world living in human apartments, taking human jobs, and specifically pushing humans out. So removing humans and replacing them with the hubrids, and that we're slowly being disintegrated or taken out through replacement. A great replacement, if you will.
Do we? Yes, yes, it is not lost on me. Do we have any examples of suspected hubrids?
Not that I have been given, not named ones, anyways. Which
I would care to speculate. I could name a few who I think.
see, all I could think here when I came across this is like, I want the game called like Hubrid Human Simulator, where it's like, do you remember that game? I think it was like Dad's Octodad or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Where it's just you have to like try, or like what was that, Mouth Simulator, where you have to just like something like that plus like the surgery simulator and QWOP, and just like you have to be an alien pretending to be a human and do normal human things, and it's insanely difficult.
It gives you like three choices of responses, but none of them are quite what a person would say, and you have to pick the best one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I want this game now. So let's kind of break into these claims as we've gone down, as they are that aliens are insects. There's an insect controlled genetic infiltrator, and who this David Jacobs is, how he came to the point of believing this, and how what he did was extraordinarily dark and evil. So let's just to the most clear version of this. So a former academic historian, an evil historian who believes in UFOs. So basically, my arch nemesis, I think.
Yeah, the anti-Tristan that was proposed by scripture long ago.
Exactly. And he claims that there are millions of insect-controlled genetic infiltrators who are currently in apartment hunting in places like Philadelphia and waiting. I don't know if he said that specifically, but just goofing around. But like,
wait a minute. Hold on a second. You said they were telepathic?
Yeah.
So why the fuck do they need people to instruct them on how to do human stuff if they can just read people's minds?
That's what the hypnotic regression says, that they're being taught how to use toasters and all those kinds of things. They can do a warp drive, but they can't do this.
There's only one button on a toaster, by the way. It just does one thing.
Maybe they got one of those new toasters that like you have to like subscribe to Toaster Plus to get like optimal toasting action or something.
How do I install the app? I have an iOS device.
Yeah, basically. So like this is like his thing. Like he thinks that they're looking for apartments, that they're waiting for a signal to basically enslave all of humanity. And that in the meantime, they're just slowly replacing us one by one with these hubrids.
God, imagine how fucking boring that would be. You're one of these hubrids and you're like hanging out and you have to do a bunch of normal human stuff for like decades, just waiting to get that signal from the UFO.
I know, I'd be so bored. Oh my God. And then also, apparently you have crippling social anxiety and you have to keep capturing humans and teaching you how to do basic things. Yeah, Jacobs admits that he has no physical evidence. There's no...
No, really?
Yeah. There's no implants. There's no DNA that he's gotten, and definitely no captured hubrids. The entire theory is built on using one tool that he has used to an extreme level, which is hypnotic regression.
I had a feeling it would be something very scientific like that.
Exactly. And so he used them, and sometimes he did them with his phone.
His
So
phone.
he did stuff over the telephone.
I see, I see, I see.
Now, there's some researchers who have looked into alien abductions. We've talked about alien abductions multiple times in this show because that's what we do here. But there's been actually some really cool interest into like looking at the cultural narrative of the abduction.
Mhm.
We've talked about a million times on the show, but we'll talk about it again because this could be someone's first episode. In which case, sorry. But the trigger, the biological trigger that is as old as like humanity, is a phenomenon called sleep paralysis, where long story short, there is this, some people experience this effect where you are awake but in a state where the paralysis that comes in so that you don't just like flail around while you're dreaming is still active, so you feel like you can't move. And also you're in a sort of liminal state between dreaming and not dreaming, so dream logic and hallucinations are common. In the
Can,
past,
can I tell a fun sleep paralysis story?
sure.
This happens to me quite often.
Oh,
I get a lot of sleep paralysis. And a few years ago, I had an experience where I was lying in bed and I was looking at the door to my bedroom, which was open and the light was on, which drives me crazy. And there, standing there, was full on Bela Lugosi Dracula.
whoa.
And anyone who knows me knows that I love to make jokes about Dracula specifically. And so I'm trying to wake up my girlfriend at the time screaming like, Dracula's here. Dracula's here. And she's just getting more and more angry at me, like, shut the fuck up, like, go to bed. And I'm freaking out. And like, I've never been scared of like this cartoon Dracula before. But let me tell you,
Yeah.
when Dracula's in the room, it's fucking scary, man. Let me tell
Yeah.
you.
People who have reported on sleep paralysis experiences have like, it is extremely terrifying. On top of that, because you are in a dream state, your amygdala is active, which is like the part that processes threats and fear, but your cerebral cortex is kind of still dreaming. So you don't really like rationally process the information that's coming in. Again, like the dream logic.
Yeah.
But it means that your ability, this is why nightmares are so scary, even if you like think about them for 10 seconds, they're not that scary. It's because your ability to feel scared and your ability to rationalize that are like, that part's turned off, but the fear part's still on. But yeah, like many people experience this. And like before it was UFOs or alien abductions, it was like demons. Like one of the suspicions is that like succubi, for example, might be like from this, or like every culture all around the world has like knowledge of or folklore about like a demon that sits on your chest and does bad stuff to you, I guess. Typically, whatever your worst nightmare is, literally.
In Newfoundland, it is the old hag.
Yes, I brought that up last week. Yeah, every culture seems to have one. In West Africa, there's something called the Kokobe. In Japan, there's the Kanashibari, and like there's just like tons of these. Every single culture has one because it's a universal human experience, which is just sort of the fact that our brains are really complicated and weird, and that we weren't designed by anybody, so we just like evolved this weird, complicated process of doing stuff.
Or we've been hybridized with aliens, and these are all genuine experiences with hubrids.
That's when the hubrids come. They've written it off as the but then sleep paralysis only started in 2003.
Part of their plan was to sit on our chest in the middle of the night for some reason. That's a key part of the whole thing.
Who knows what they've got going on? Alien logic is a completely different thing. They've seemed to have come light years across the galaxy to fuck with us in like a million tiny ways. So sleep paralysis, like the biological trigger of it. The people who report alien abductions tend to have a personality trait called high absorption. These are people who can very easily get lost in imagination or in movies. So people like a personality trait that is highly like, I talked about this last week. Like it's not like people who are very credulous or people who are very like, there's not like an intelligence aspect. Very much having a vivid imagination and being able to like get sucked into your imagination is like a personality trait that tends to be for people who have abduction stories.
Gee, I wonder why.
Yeah.
It's then, like I appreciate the academic rigor, but I got to tell you, did not need a study to tell me that one.
Yeah,
kind of figured that one out on my own.
true. I mean, a lot of academic work is like trying to, define something that you gut understand and then finding out how you are right or why you were right or why you were wrong in an interesting way. Um,
Yes, yeah.
yeah. So, but the thing is, they also have things like people will then have these experiences, and it's all being seeded by the fact that like we have in our cultural scripts the X Files, Communion, any sort of like we have aliens are like the closest thing that we can like put into our heads because maybe I'm wrong, but not a lot of people believe in demons anymore. Um,
Well, yeah, you're
yeah,
wrong. I would say a great deal of people believe in demons, but
fair.
uh, um, you know what's interesting though? You never hear stories about someone who believes they were abducted by aliens or possessed by a demon, who then goes through this like hypnosis process and realizes they weren't.
Yeah, that's true.
Like that seems to never happen.
Turns out I just have anger
Yeah.
issues,
Oh,
man.
that
Yeah,
was just a dream I had. Never mind.
exactly. But yeah, then the thing though that is that these like dreams can then be turned into memories using hypnosis. And I, for the first time in a long time, because like I never did like the deep dive on it, but today we're going to, is like what the fuck actually is hypnosis?
I've wondered this myself. I'm glad we're talking about this because I'm of two minds. Is hypnosis real? Can you give me like the definitive
The
take?
answer is a little bit, but not as much as people
I don't
think.
want it to be complicated. Boil it down, make it simple. We're not gonna, no.
Yeah.
Do it for dummies. Tell me, because I'm
Okay.
dumb. Tell me the dumb way to think about it. Do my thinking for me. Think
Okay.
for me, monkey.
um yes, if there is a state of mind called hypnosis, you can hypnotize people, but a lot of its claims are exaggerated or are, as
Hmm.
you'll see, they don't it's good for, it doesn't do a lot of things. But
Or
what it
that's
does,
what they want you to think.
yeah, exactly. None of this is, I'm like, none of this is gonna like get through to the people, but here we go.
No, yeah, obviously.
So what hypnosis is that through like certain techniques you can put somebody, certain people, because actually there's a lot of people actually cannot be hypnotized. It's like a certain type of person are put into this sort of strange liminal state of mind of like where they become highly suggestible. And then under hypnosis, the brain often tries to do something called confabulation because memory doesn't work the way that we think it does. So the brain oftentimes, and this is why, like, if you are doing hypnosis, you have to like be extraordinarily careful about. This even comes up in like interrogations when you're trying to get people to like walk through like an event that happened. You have to be extremely careful about what questions you asked because the desire to like kind of please them will result in you adding details that are fake or that fit what the hypnotist is asking for, and you'll invent details rather than say you don't know. And that fairly often happens because we talked about this last week. Like your brain is like people, the sort of concept that we have in our heads of memory is that memory is like this like record in your head that you can just like spin up and play the parts that you want. But really, what it is that what we call memory is scattered all over the place, little bits, details, in that, and that every time we try to remember something, we are constructing an entire like simulation of that in our heads. Like we take all these little bits, and then the parts that we don't have in our knowledge, we fill in with what we think would best fit.
Yeah, and each time you access a memory, you alter it, and that knowledge is, I think, a cognito hazard because it really makes you not want to remember your most precious memories and grow
That's
ever more
true.
distant from them over
That
time.
is, oh, I didn't even think about that before. Yeah, that is spooky. Like how because every memory is constructed, and yeah, you the details can change the more you remember them that they get.
Corrupted and
Sorry, I have to
changed,
go
and
sit and think for a little while,
yeah,
or
yeah.
not think,
Sorry,
I guess.
everybody.
Um,
Content warning.
well, yeah, but yeah, so like, but if you say had a hypnotist who seems to have gotten many people to convince them that they have established this elaborate lore about hubrids and mantids and insectoids and all that, you might think that this guy's hypnosis technique might be a little not so great. So there's a researcher named Elizabeth Loftus showed that like what you experience when you are under hypnosis is something called hyperreality, where you can have memories induced through these questions and these stories. And what happens is that after the hypnosis is over, you can have these memories that often feel more real than actual memories. because they're constructed in the present with like intense focus. So like, you know how like flashbulb memories, like when the memories you have of like traumatizing events, like if that kind of thing, those memories also happen to be very highly very highly like confabulated, made up stuff, or like incorrect details.
It sounds very much like the type of experience one might have on a high dose of hallucinogenic
Yeah.
drugs.
I don't know if there's like a I mean I know somebody who does hallucinogenic research, but I haven't I guess like in many ways, like I think that actually I just read an article that came out recently about how psilocybin can cause like it kind of showed them the physical mechanism for why the nature of the trip is important, and like being properly guided, because it can actually
Hmm.
make your problems worse if you like go the wrong way.
Yeah, oh yeah, big time. Yeah.
But it showed like the kind of mechanism for it because it like resets a bunch of connections. And so if you like do that and then go to do some other things, then under like, you know, like a trained therapeutic
Yeah. Well, I don't know if this is the same as hypnosis and this kind of a diversion, but like the way that neural pathways kind of get cemented in the
Mhm.
brain over time, certain drugs, and I assume like meditation and perhaps also hypnotizing people, can allow you to bypass those patterns and set new neural pathways, which is extremely difficult for the brain to do.
Mhm.
And it's why these therapies show so much promise.
Yeah. One of my friends, she's who lives down the street, she's a neuroscientist who studies this like professionally as a researcher. And I Hubert,
Hubrid, you're living next to a hubrid. That's a hubrid right
but they
there.
have a very cute
Did you
baby.
ever ask how to use your toaster? Did you ever
Well,
ask?
oh no, and she made me a bunch of food when my kid was born.
Yeah. Does she have social
I think she
anxiety?
might actually. Oh no.
Uh-oh. Hubrid
Oh
alert. You
no. I'm
found
sorry,
one.
Laura. I hope she doesn't listen to this show. But yeah, the whole idea though is like, yeah, like in the moment, you can have these memories that feel more real than reality. And they can be like, and then later on, they can like, they'll sit in your memory as like extremely intense memories, even if their
Mhm.
details are completely made up. And so Richard McNally, another researcher, found that abductees who listen to their tapes show they like the same heartbeat and sweat response of people who of other studies of Vietnam vets who were made to like think about reliving the combat they were in, which means that hypnosis, if you do something like this, can cause like actual psychological trauma, even if it's an event that never happened.
Oh my God. That's so shitty. Imagine being this person and having like induced PTSD for a thing that didn't happen.
Oh, it gets even worse.
Oh my
Remember the
God.
Satanic Panic?
Yes, yeah.
This was what was done to a lot of people who then were claimed that their family members like assaulted them and did like horrible demonic things to them. They then had like actual memories of like beloved family members. Some of those people went to prison over these, and like now even when it turned out to all be confabulated memories and like led on, they still have like family members that they have traumatic like abuse memories of that never happened.
Jesus
Yeah.
Christ. That's such a oh. Everything is so
Yeah.
stupid.
Now, I
Like,
want to tell you one thing that David Jacobs did, and I want to talk about probably the worst case study of what he did. So, by the way, content warning for like the next few minutes.
oh boy.
If you wish to skip, do so by 6 minutes and 16 seconds. The timestamp should be around 38 minutes and 50 seconds.
I want to talk about one of the kind of worst cases of David Jacobs's like project to build this weird alien lore, and it's a person who goes by a pseudonym of Emma Woods, who is the most documented of the Jacobs methodology. In the mid 2000s, she approached Jacobs looking for help and received 91 hypnosis sessions with him, most over the telephone. Which, by the way, clinical hypnosis standards generally forbid doing phone regression because you can't monitor their distress or their physical state, because being receptive to them, it's like it'd be like what's it called, it'd be like trip sitting somebody over the phone. Yeah.
Over the phone, yeah.
The audio tapes that were brought out about her hypnosis sessions reveal that Jacobs was explicitly feeding her this narrative. Like he wasn't even, this was not in any way close to like, he was basically just trying to fill the story in. And he would
Of
also do
course.
other things like tell her about other abductees, specifically another woman who was just named Elizabeth, undergoing violent hybrid attacks, and then immediately hypnotized Emma to see if she saw the same thing. And unsurprisingly, Emma would then start, quote, remembering exactly what Jacobs told her.
And this man is not a psychologist. He's just a former
He's
historian.
a historian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, Tristan, you're a historian. How often do you do therapy over the phone with vulnerable people?
I do all of my therapy in person in my historical psychotherapy.
That's very responsible of you.
I do it all in person, and I am very good about the lines of questioning.
Mm-hmm. Did he only treat women? Because that, like, we all
treated a lot of women.
Okay. Well, you know, I'm just gonna, rather than invent my own red flags, I'm just gonna let you present the red flags as they come.
It gets more fun. So Emma began to question the narrative and suggest that hybrids might not be evil. Like just the concept of hybrids might not be evil. And Jacobs turned on her and warned her that there would be consequences if she didn't stick to the script. And then also planted post-hypnotic suggestions that she would be attacked if she stopped the sessions. And I don't know for sure, but I am guessing that these were not free sessions.
Jesus.
Yeah. So fundamentally, it's like a form of like authoritarian knowledge production. He's like hijacking her mind to write his own fan fiction.
The male urge to write a sci-fi novel. Just write a book, man. Why are you torturing these women?
Yeah. And he also has had some other horrific incidences. Like in 2004 or 5, he became fixated on proving that hybrids were sexually assaulting these subjects to breed. And Emma Woods was asked to, quote, send him a pair of her unwashed underwear after a suspected abduction event. So that he could test them for alien sperm or other physical residue.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Yeah. I told you this. I'm sorry. I feel like I should have given you a content warning before I started this. This is brutal.
No, it's just I never would have thought it would be that blatant.
Yeah. Like he might as well have asked us like send her bathwater or something. But like there's no, for the point, he said he would take it as an alien sperm test. He has no lab, and also there's no database of DNA for aliens. Any lab would basically just find biological material or literally nothing.
Yeah. And also not even necessarily that, because who knows what kind of, if it would even register to us as biological material. It could be like fucking silicon based, but
yeah.
And I know it couldn't be, okay, don't at me. But the idea that in order for these hubrids to breed, they need to sexually assault people. Why wouldn't the aliens just make their hubrids super hot?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be the first thing you would think to do?
If there's millions of them,
give them like super pheromones or something.
If there's millions of them, make them super hot, and then just start like, I don't know, like get like start something like Love is Blind, or like something like that, where just people, like I could already see the show where it's like, this is a dating show for socially awkward people to date. Netflix has already greenlit the show.
7 feet tall, super beautiful guys who can't use a toaster.
Exactly.
Looking to find love.
Definitely not a mantis. In no way is this person a mantis. He has lots of habits and preferences. He prefers to be devoured alive while mating. He loves a good.
Who among us doesn't?
He prefers his women at least twice his size, if not larger, so that their egg sac will be of decent strength and sturdiness.
And bountiful, yes. In a controlled temperature of exactly 15 degrees Celsius.
Perfect. See, Netflix, get on this shit, all right? But yeah, this is just blatant boundary violation with no actual purpose. And it gets even worse because he also, as the attacks in Emma's narrative got worse, he proposed a solution, which was to wear a chastity belt.
Oh my God.
With specifically inward-facing sharp objects to injure any hybrid attempts to assault her. And this is a person who, like, he was encouraging a vulnerable person to physically harm herself based on a delusion that he created in her, inducing, like, literal, like, trauma around sexual assault. And then it just shows how far we got from goofy UFO stuff, is that, like, as I got to this part, I'm just like, I hate this so much.
And like, it almost feels insulting to this woman to interrogate the logic of this at all. But like, I know we've harped on this a lot, but like the idea that they can cross galaxies, but they can't pick a lock is fucking crazy.
Yeah. And this is a guy, like, they had this guy on Ancient Aliens to talk about this theory in the episode.
Jesus.
Like, this is the kind of people that they bring on for the show.
The only show this guy should be on is a documentary about prison.
Yeah, this seems like this would Netflix, if you're listening. This is also like this is a true crime documentary right here to be made.
Yeah, yeah.
So like that is this guy, and that is the kind of like fucked up situation that then we end up with Ancient Aliens just straight up uncritically platforming his theory that he like made by just like traumatizing dozens of people. And good job, History Channel. Thumbs up. Thumbs. Do you know why the History Channel does this, by the way?
The sticky icky cashish.
Yeah, speaking of sticky icky cashish, this show needs sticky icky cashish to keep the show going. So please, ads. Might be the worst ad transition I have ever done in my entire life.
So far.
When I started researching this episode, I did not anticipate the places it was going to go. Few people would, because what I just explained was one of the most insane things I've ever researched ever.
The minute you said that he was doing this unlicensed therapy with a woman, my mind immediately, and I hate that I was able to predict it, I was like, oh, he's going to sexually abuse this woman. It's like the inevitable result of giving a crank like this power over somebody.
Yeah, this is like the standard cult leader type of like move. It's brutal, and it just shows like this just shows how bad like hypnotic regression can go, and maybe like why you need to have like a therapist who knows what they're doing do this.
It's also, I imagine it must be validating for the kind of purposes of a program like this, because I imagine some feedback you often would get would be, well, why not just let people believe silly things?
Yeah.
Who's actually hurt by it? Well, here you go. Here's what can happen if you allow people to just think uncritically and believe, conspiratorial bullshit. This is the end result.
You give guys like this the sort of social ammunition to do the things he does. Furthermore, the kinds of ideas that it promotes is, and this is kind of a common thing in this whole kind of season, which is that like the structure of the narrative they're building where there's aliens involved. Now, okay, I know you know enough about the history of the far right to know that like there was a period in the 80s where like they would be like, oh yeah, Zog is like the term we were using for everything that we hate, and like it was like explicitly white supremacist and all that. Then they kind of got in a lot of trouble, and they were like, hey, what if we called Zog New World Order and just got rid of the explicit white supremacism and anti-Semitism, and it like took off like hotcakes. I do think that in some ways this is like a laundering of some ideas that I kind of want to talk a little bit about, because I think that
well, like when she said, I don't think these hybrids are necessarily evil, and he freaked out about that, it gives you a little clue into his feelings on miscegenation.
Yeah, and we talked about that with like H.P. Lovecraft, and like how all of this like talk of like hybrids and the specific like of like aliens messing around with our DNA speaks to like I spoke to a professor of science fiction before I did this season, and one of the things he pointed out was that like the things that we do when we make up aliens is very much us culturally talking about the other in one way or another. It's us processing either like race or like some kind of like person who is not like us. And in this case, you are saying that there are people that are not like us, but they also are among us. Sorry, Amogus.
Thank you.
And so, and that story is a very common story in human history, and one that has a massive body count associated with it. Because if you take hybrid out and swap the word migrant or globalist, you basically have one of the most dangerous political, I hesitate to say theories, but ideas right now, which is the idea of the Great Replacement.
Yeah.
And for those who are blissfully unaware, the Great Replacement is this idea that a mythical them, oftentimes the Jews, or the globalists, as they'll often go to, are trying to accelerate immigration into Western countries to basically, literally, like genetically replace white people with like people of color, and that is the reason why immigrants exist and why you're seeing people who don't look like you sometimes. And that is a bad thing, apparently.
It's very bad because of all of the people that are gonna come and take your stuff, take your jobs, and you're gonna have to teach them to use toasters, and it's a whole fucked up situation.
Yeah, the government toaster class is going to be the really complicated little bit about how to do that. It's just like in the future we're going to have like robots, and they're just going to have an entire class about how many R's there are in strawberry.
Yeah, this is the sci-fi dystopia they didn't prepare us for. Is that robots would essentially be like toddlers forever that we would have to constantly be educating.
Yeah. Yeah, the thing, so like this like idea of like the hybrids or the hubrids, sorry, that are swapping us out, follows the same narrative. The idea that we're being bred out by a numerically superior or in some way technologically superior other, and that, you know, according to Jacobs, hubrids look like us, but they're like a hive mind. And fascists would say that
Mhm.
cultural Marxists, caravans, or trans groomers look like citizens but serve the sort of anti-Western agenda. So to Jacobs, they would say that this is being orchestrated by the mantis people and the Greys, but the fascists would say that it's globalists, which is it's an anti-Semitic dog whistle, and I say dog whistle lightly because it's like extraordinarily, it's very much just a whistle
Yeah.
in a lot of ways.
I call them dog foghorns.
Yeah, exactly. That's just trying to associate the concept of migration, which is going to become more of an issue as we render more and more of our planet uninhabitable, to
Mm.
as a threat to white demographics. Um,
Well, it should be fine so long as we don't start a bunch of pointless foreign wars.
oh my god, yeah. For the
Let me
yeah,
just
this is good.
let me just check the news real
Yeah,
quick.
for the record, yeah.
Take a big sip of water and
For the record, because it's going to be coming out in like a couple months. We're recording this like 2 days after the U.S. like basically the U.S. and Israel like invaded Iran or bombed Iran, uh, killing tons of people and causing a needless amount of violence for no reason. Cool. Love this world we live in.
good world I'm finding again and again.
Mhm.
Why do the aliens want it so bad? That's the real question. Why are they looking at this mess and going like, we need to conquer this?
The only major like cinematic universe of aliens that I've ever come across that actually has an answer for that is Zachariah Sitchin's. He's like the guy behind the reptilian people.
Mhm.
And that they want Earth because we have gold.
Oh.
Seemingly ignorant to the fact that there is multiple times the entire amount of gold on Earth in the asteroid belt that is much easier to get if if you have a
Yeah,
spaceship.
because gold is just a fucking element, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's everywhere in the
Yeah,
universe.
and it's much easier to find, like, because of how Earth works. It's like very like, you know, deep, and it's fairly rare. But like in space, shit's everywhere.
Mm.
One of the people that I talked to is probably one of the most. It was a really amazing conversation, but it was also just this poor woman. So Dr. Cortland Pippert, who is a media studies researcher, who did her dissertation on the History Channel and watched over 1,400 hours of its content
Good God.
to develop this, said that History Channel actually deliberately cultivates demographic anxiety since it was founded, because the channel has always been like, the whole idea of the History Channel was that there's not enough content that is like TV stuff that is explicitly marketed to white men. And so the History Channel was made as like a way to do that.
And that's really the exact wrong takeaway from history itself.
Yeah, and that like so, and to do so, to appeal to that demographic, you basically very quickly turn into like a white nationalist project that is talking about like grievance culture and all that kind of stuff. So this fits right into that sort of part of their business structure. They literally called it, their programming strategy was coined as a romance television for men.
Wouldn't it be so much better if all of this was an attempt to displace real racism with a kind of fictitious racism against aliens? Where if instead of trying to normalize the kind of thought patterns that lead one to becoming a white nationalist, instead it was to use that same impulse to direct all of that anger and hate out towards this fictional enemy that doesn't exist. And all of these would-be white nationalists instead get really fixated on finding all the hubrids and all the reptilians and greys.
There is a funny story that is kind of in that vein. I say funny with quotations, but it's there's something in that vein, which is that in East Germany after World War II, because they knew that there were like some people who would still be like Nazi sympathetic in the new communist state they were building. So in their sort of like, almost kind of fake democracy, they made multiple parties. They were all communist parties, but they were different flavors. And they made one that was like kind of right wing and racist, and explicitly like never had any power. It just was like existing to be like a kind of busy box so that they could feel like they were participating as well. Which I found, I was like, that is like, imagine if we had the Republican Party or like, the Conservatives or People's Party here, and it just like they were never allowed to win elections. They were just there for so that they could just get it out of their system, basically.
This is what we need, is we need someone to be like, folks, the globalists don't want you completing coloring books. The more coloring books you can complete, the more you disrupt their agenda,
Mm-hmm.
and then just set them to the task.
Uh,
Folks, they don't want you working in soup kitchens, chopping vegetables and doing a lot of grunt work, cleaning the toilets. They don't want you doing that.
they're trying to take this away from you.
Yeah.
This is what they took from you. Like, those like images of like, just like a picture of like an Xbox or something. It's just like, this is what they took from you. It's just like doing care work and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, like, Pippert's research found that this is fairly like, this was not done because like they were like, we're malicious, like fascists, but it's because this is how they sold ads. They literally just saw a market opening and thought that they could do that. And so really the hubrids being a thing on History Channel is not like an outlier here. And it's like, it was literally being on like the second most watched cable program, which Ancient Aliens is, selling ads.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, it's on cable. So like the 12 people who are still watching cable, apparently the second most.
What's the first most? Do you know?
Yellowstone.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. And the thing is, as you know, and as many people probably know from the news for the last few years, that this isn't like a victimless metaphor. Buffalo in 2022, El Paso in 2019, and Christchurch in 2019 were all mass shooting events where the people, the culprits, wrote manifestos explicitly citing like replacement and invasion as part of the rhetoric. They just changed the target. Now, I'm going to try to fit this in. I'm really glad I've got a fellow like black red friend for this episode, because I'm going to like probably try to like figure out why people are acting so crazy right now. And the first thing I could think of is, well, it's because everybody is like, actually, this is a really good thing, or this is a really good way to talk about that I came across recently. Have you heard about this like political discourse word that's getting popular in China when talking about America called the kill line?
No.
Okay. In Chinese like gaming discourse or gaming like lingo, the kill line is like if you're in a shooter where your health is so low that like one shot will kill you, that's called the kill line. And they talk about America,
right,
where like everybody is on the kill line, like everybody is like one bad thing away from like everything falling apart, which is just like true about
not wrong,
a lot of people in this world, which I think is we're in a state where everybody can't afford anything. The future looks bleak and everything's collapsing, and it's really hard for us to take a large system of it, like no human driven, just like a big complicated world that we can't really wrap our heads around because there's so many things as part of it, without putting a face on it and calling it the bad guy.
Well, and I think also just the inherent psychological trauma of being in such a place for one's entire life leads you to a lot of irrational thinking.
I would argue that as well. And on top of that, there's just the thing where like we are, because of like how big and how many people we're talking about when it comes to the whole world, we've gotten into this place where just because of the nature of the size of our civilization now, we have to abstract people. We have to like, we can't like know every person, which we evolved for, hundreds of thousands of years to know every person that we have a relationship with or that is connected to us, and not think of like the like millions or billions of people that shape our world. And in doing so, to do those things, we had to invent borders, policing, surveillance, and leaders, like strongmen leaders who have to root out the imposters. And I would like to reject Jacobs saying that he could be the only one who could be like the truth of adoption, and maybe talk about how we find people like, the changelings, like the sort of like idea, we see people as othered because we have lost our ability of understanding our mutual dependence on each other, and that you don't see how that person who you don't recognize as part of your in group as like somebody who can like as somebody who is part of the reason that you can live the life that you have now.
It's
Um,
also there's something so of the moment about this. Like I don't know when Jacobs was like at the height of his popularity. I assume if he's getting
2000s,
interviewed
2010s.
by right. So the idea of like within a kind of fascist ideology like the great replacement theory, there always has to be this other, this enemy that they're fighting that is kind of shifting an amalgus and sorry about among us and uh the literalization of that where it's like we literally cannot see them, we cannot even detect them, they are quite literally aliens with different DNA than us that look exactly like us and are undetectable and are everywhere
Yeah.
is at once kind of novel but also this like real dumbing down and stripping away of metaphor that I think really like it's so didactic, it's so like in your face about what it is
Hmm.
in a way that like I feel like a generation ago people would have needed more critical thinking to be a conspiracy
Yeah.
theorist, you know? Like
Yeah, there's a thing here like and this comes up in a lot of conspiracy theories where like there is a lot of like just like taking metaphor and making it literal. Even like a
yes.
lot of like ancient aliens is taking mythology, like stories that other cultures told to understand the world in like, you know, various different ways of like literalness, but making it all literal in order to like I don't know, to basically like fill it in with their like they can't think that something is metaphorical. They had to think that like no, they just misunderstood a like
It,
sci-fi thing.
and that's also another hallmark of fascism is syncretism,
Mhm.
right? They pull from all these historical sources kind of willy-nilly and kind of apply them to their logic in a way that seldom makes sense and always starts with their own justifying belief system,
Mhm.
which in this case is kind of this superficial adherence to an empirical scientific mindset. Oh, they believed it was this magic god because they're dumb dummies that are probably influenced by the aliens. But we, as a superior white people, we know it's all science. So it was probably aliens. It couldn't be that it's just like a story people told
Yeah.
to tell a message, you know?
Yeah. And like I always think of like the thing that kind of comes to mind and the thing that comes to mind with just the way the world has been for the last like year and change or should be like basically since like 2015 I think was about when we just like left reality for the most part.
Mm,
Um is just that I'm trying to think. We are not good at handling the a world this big, and this is why like my whole belief about the way that that we should organize ourselves is that for the most part the people making decisions for others should know that person's name and face and like have like a relationship with them. If we can kind of keep because I obviously we need like nuclear power plants and jelly beans, but we do I do think that if we can like make as many decisions decided by people who know the people who are going to be affected by it, that would be super awesome. And on top of that, like one of the ways that we could do it if we have to live in like this extremely complicated civilization is that we need to like break down that kind of barrier between an us and a them. And so really just facilitating connection like if like a lot of this went insane during like the COVID pandemic, and I'm wondering if like lockdown meant that you just didn't see people who didn't look or think like you for a period of time, and that's what drove so many people insane because like it's harder to be racist when you interact with people of various different races all the time. It very much is like that kind of like isolation and like to quote the anarchist favorite term, mutual aid if we understood that kind of or another way to go the ubuntu concept, the idea that you exist because others exist and that nobody exists in a vacuum, y'all would be a lot less likely to just take other people and let and we would not do this kind of panic to do this to immigrants or trans people and immigrants in like a sort of moral panic we're in right now. This is a very common
it
it's a very common script that our society
it
does.
also kind of speaks to the mindset of someone like Jacobs that when he imagines this other culture from the stars visiting us, he can see it through no other lens than through that of like subjugation an invasion.
Hmm.
Because like, if he were to visit another planet and see a culture that he felt was beneath him, that's how he would behave, clearly.
Yeah.
You know, we can, based on his treatment of some of his quote unquote patients, you can kind of see that authoritarian mindset.
I have a new solution to the Fermi paradox, which is that they all just take one look at us and go, you know what? Give them a few decades to see if they work it out. But yeah, like
yeah, the solution to the Fermi paradox is simply that Earth isn't chill.
yeah, they can't join the club. They have to chill. They have to relax. They have to like get over themselves. Basically, it's like the big one. But yeah, like the big thing too is just like, and this kind of goes into like the fundamental. I don't know how into the anarchist theory weeds we want to go, but like there's this concept, and it comes up a lot, which is that like in anarchist, when anarchists talk to each other, this is the kind of things that they talk about, that they'll get into, is that like we are a social species, which means a lot of great things. We have done a lot of great things together, but it also means that we have a sort of innate urge to go with the flow when when sometimes terrible things happen and lead us to do horrible things, and that the societies that have managed to keep themselves like free to the extent that they can have had to actively resist this impulse in people, like actively resist this like this sort of our urge to either scapegoat or to just like kind of follow a leader or something like that. And so this is why like I'm talking about like mutual aid, like it's not just like a general thing. This is like a thing that we should actively try to get people to do, to make sure that they understand this with each other, because we know that our stupid tribal monkey brains can't be grown up enough to process a civilization otherwise.
And there's a lot of like actual data to back this up. Like we as kind of communicators flatter ourselves that we're going to talk people out of these bad ideas, but studies suggest that the only real way to get someone to like step out of a bigoted mind frame is to meet someone of that of the target of their bigotry.
Mhm.
That tends to be like the biggest predictor of whether people are going to change their minds.
There's a author named Adrienne Black, and she under her dead name published a book called was it Rising Out of Hatred, which was a story about how this person, her dad, is the owner of Stormfront. The owner of Stormfront, Don Black, famous, and this person as a
what an ironic name.
Yeah.
Can I just say?
Yeah, for real. This person like co-hosted a radio show with her dad, and like was like an open Nazi for their entire childhood, because she grew up in this like white supremacist soup, and then just went to university and just by meeting people, her entire worldview fell apart. And this is also why they're always complaining about people going to university, by the way.
Yeah.
And just in doing so, completely like broke apart and looks to be living their best life now. So congratulations. But yeah, that's the sort of like example of how contact can make a very profound change. And I would say, very good book to read. I wonder if they're going to make a new edition with all of the name changes and stuff. That would be pretty awesome. That's a difficult thing to have to do with life. If you're being a
yeah, if you're already, I imagine, the target of these Nazi people, to then add to that, by coming out as trans femme, it's takes some real courage.
Yeah. Adrienne Black, you rule. Very cool.
Although, having said that, I also wish to apologize, because I also can't stand it when people tell. My trans brain is always like, don't tell me that I'm brave. Shut the fuck up. I hate that. I hate that so much.
Okay, but this is next level. Like when you are
yes, it's different. It's different. I don't
that is like literally like this is a thing that she could be killed over, that like but like live truth anyway. Like that's intense. But yeah, like basically like the next time you see a panic or people are freaking out about something, just remember just like kind of ask these questions. Does it claim that there's some kind of hidden enemy that's like infiltrating normal life? Do they claim that they're like us but aren't us? Does it predict some kind of catastrophic loss of identity for an us? And is the person who is selling that fear offering themselves as the savior? And if so, if it is, you are basically just, it is the changeling all over again. Doing a full circle as a narrative writing point. We're going back to the changeling and showing how it's the exact same thing that we did ages ago as a sort of eternal cycle of debased humanity, and we're doing it again, just at scale.
And also, if none of that is enough to convince you, I would ask you this: if you were a hybrid attempting to infiltrate human society, why would you not preemptively position yourself as the only thing that can protect people from hybrids? Why wouldn't you see the narrative that actually anyone who tells you that there's hybrids is actually a hybrid? I'm the only one who isn't, and only I can protect you if you do exactly as I say.
Hybrids, if you want to come on this show and go into detail, I'd love to pick your telepathic brain on that.
Yeah, or whatever organ you have in lieu of a brain.
To kind of come to the end, because like this is, as I mentioned, this is like the season finale, and we've been talking about all these different examples, and like this concept called the call, which is like a thing that Jacobs wrote about, how like this is like we're being managed. And all of it, I think, like if I were to like tie into all these different examples, it's just like this is what happens when we let fear break our like common solidarity of just the us should be everybody. And
yeah.
And this is this kind of thinking is what we do to each other when we believe that we're separate from each other, because find your herd and protect each other, which is be good to each other. It feels like that's so hard to do.
It's just, it really shouldn't require so much explanation to be like, well, maybe don't look for reasons to kill and torture other human beings.
You'd think. You know where you won't kill or torture human beings? It is at Probs Not Aliens on Blue Sky.
Anywhere.
Promise to not torture or kill any human beings on our Probs Not Aliens at Blue Sky. Now, Mildred, you are known to occasionally make short films for YouTube.gov. Would you like to tell people about your stuff?
Yeah, I make what has been described as left-wing comedy videos on youtube.com/@thoughtslime is the new format for YouTube URLs. That's where you can go. I recently did a video. Well, I've done many videos which intersect with this topic, perhaps the most pertinent being a video on how fascists and other authoritarian right-wingers will use calculated nonsense specifically to waste everybody's time.
Scott also needs to put literal food in a baby's mouth, so please go watch NerdSync videos. They're very fun and they're very well done. Scott is a perfectionist in many ways, and it results in some very, very good stuff, even if it stresses him out too much.
Scott is good at making videos in that he will make videos on topics I fundamentally do not give a shit about, mostly Scooby-Doo, and I will watch every one of them.
He's great. We miss him. And of course, I have recently come back to making stuff. I just made a video about Minnesota right when it became less relevant, but I made a video about basically how history shows different ways that you can resist. Say if you were in a situation where you feel like you're being occupied by a more powerful force and wanted to figure out what worked to resist that wasn't just, taking some Bristol boards to a corner for one weekend every few months, and instead wanted to do something a little bit more tangible, that would be the place to go. And of course, to support this show, if you got the money, which I know is tough right now, but nebula.tv/probably-not-aliens. If you sign up for Nebula, you get to be part of Nebula. You get all of the Nebula stuff, but also you get episodes of the show a week early. You get a Q&A episode we do at the end of every season. And this one we have Scott, because we recorded it way back months ago. And then if you want to help with our little fund for supporting our editors and everything like that, that's patreon.com/probs-not-aliens. But if you don't have money, reviewing this podcast on whatever app you're using really helps with getting us up in the ranks. Telling your friends by sending them to probs-not-aliens.com. I'm starting to get the hang of this part that Scott usually does. But until next season, which should be sooner rather than later, I am Tristan Johnson.
And I am Mildred, temporarily hosting for Scott.
Yeah, and the truth is out there. I hope so.
Yeah. But we'll never let you know what it was. We tricked you. We've been hubrids the whole time. All of this was part of our plan.
Oh shit, we're still recording.
Oh no.
Turn it off.
I don't know how it's so much more complicated than my toaster. I don't know how to turn this off.